Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at noon starts now.
Wildfires up and down the West Coast have claimed more than 30 lives, and the air quality is some of the worst in the world. In the meantime, the South Tropical Storm Sally is strengthening, targeting the Gulf Coast. Paul is in for Brandon this afternoon, and he's tracking it all for us. But first, starting today, the state will begin reporting coronavirus cases in K-12 schools. And that does top our news here at noon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Evrod Cassimy. We are going to get the very latest from the state for the first time, and many are curious about just how many schools have had outbreaks. Our Grant Herms joins us now live this afternoon. And Grant, these numbers are going to be in high demand.
Absolutely. The push to get these numbers of outbreaks in schools to parents is part of the governor's plan to be more transparent about our COVID data here in the state of Michigan. But there are pros and cons with these numbers that we'll see each week. Now, since the early days of the pandemic, the state has been tracking outbreaks in places like nursing homes, bars and restaurants, and food processing plants, but only recently added K-12 schools to that list. Now, school districts are supposed to disclose their COVID numbers to local health departments that then send those on to the Department of Health and Human Services. Those districts are also supposed to report the school addresses and number of students infected to the health department. Online, the numbers then get broken down into which regions that those outbreaks are in. But there is an issue here. Those numbers that are reported to the state, those get reported on Thursday, meaning that when they get reported the following Monday to the public, they could be a week old already, which could mean kids or school staff have been exposed to the virus without knowing. And while experts agree that more good information is better than not, the fact that data might not be in real time but is publicly available has the potential to give people a dangerous false sense of security.
To me, the biggest downside of the availability of information is that people might assume that if there is no outbreak, they can let their guard down. That's not true either. You should always assume the spread of COVID is potentially just a few breaths away. This type of outbreak notification, that is more than one case linked by time and location, does not mean there are not cases that are not linked.
And the outbreak data here will not be used for contact tracing from the state. That still happens at your local health department level. Those numbers come out today at 3 in the afternoon. We'll have the very latest on them at 5 o'clock. Evrod?
All right, Grant, thank you so much for the update there. We want to give you a look now at your coronavirus headlines. The state has stopped reporting new cases on Sundays. So this afternoon, we do expect to get those numbers as well as today's. And then in case you missed it, here are the numbers as of our last report on Saturday afternoon. The state reporting that there were 692 new cases, and we lost 13 more people to the virus. On the national front of things, the United States has surpassed 6,521,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases. More than 194,000 people have died from the virus, and these are numbers from the Johns Hopkins University database. The World Health Organization reports a record one-day increase in global coronavirus cases. The total of new confirmed infections rose by over 300,000, and that is just in a 24-hour period. The agency says that the most cases were from the United States, Brazil, and India. Now, we know that the coronavirus has been a life-changing event worldwide, to say the least. But President Donald Trump continues to predict a vaccine will be out soon, despite doubts from experts.
President Trump continues to say the U.S. is rounding the corner with the fight against COVID-19, despite an updated model predicting over 200,000 more U.S. deaths by January 1st.
The vaccines are going to be out soon. The therapeutics have been fantastic. We've had a lot of good things happening.
Drug maker Pfizer says it's making progress on an immunization.
We have quite a good chance, more than 60%, that we will know if the product works or not by the end of October. But of course, doesn't mean that it works. It means that we will know if it works.
Many medical experts aren't holding their breath.
To see a CEO get out ahead of the science here, I think, is something that we should all take with a grain of salt.
We don't have enough people in these trials right now that are minorities, that are from vulnerable populations, people with HIV, people with cancer, people of varying age groups.
As work on a vaccine rolls on, President Trump held a campaign rally Sunday night in Nevada, where few attendees wore masks and social distancing was at a minimum. The event violated the state's ban on gatherings of more than 50 people.
You don't pack a bunch of people together in indoor spaces. You don't give it the opportunity to have a super spreader event. So this is about 180 degrees off from what you would choose to do if all you cared about was ending the coronavirus pandemic.
And in the meantime, President Donald Trump has repeatedly inserted himself into the Big Ten Conference, hoping to push leaders to reverse course and hold a football season. Now, it's unclear if the president's pressure actually got them to do so, but Big Ten Conference presidents and chancellors are expected to vote today, in fact, regarding if football teams can play a shortened season. Of course, we'll keep you posted on that. Turning our attention now to the dual disasters that are impacting or set to impact our nation. In the south, we're watching Tropical Storm Sally as it strengthens, targeting the Gulf Coast. We want to show you now some live radar there on the right side of your screen. That is of the storm. And there are hurricane warnings stretching now from Louisiana to Florida. And then on the other side of the country, wildfires up and down the West Coast have claimed more than 30 lives. Many more people have been reported missing. And as Jennifer Bjorklund reports, President Trump is going to be visiting California today while the state continues to battle the outbreak.
The president plans to meet with local and federal fire and emergency officials in Sacramento, the state capital, at the base for CAL FIRE air operations. And he's also expected to meet with members of the National Guard. We're expecting that those are the ones who took their helicopters and made some very, very courageous and dangerous rescues, pulling people to safety from campsites. Overnight, we had some great progress on this North Complex fire in Butte County. Containment is up now to 38%, but those lines will be challenged by the shift back to the critical fire conditions later today after a few days of cool, breezy weather. Dozens of fires are burning still across 12 states, and the death toll, now at 35, continues to rise as crews follow behind the embers, looking for the missing in towns and along escape routes. And more than 24 major fires continue to burn in the state of California. Some have been burning for almost a month. The burn area larger than the state of Connecticut. I'm Jennifer Bjorklund at the Incident Command Post in Chico, California. Now back to you.
Wow, that is unbelievable. Thank you, Jennifer. We do want to bring in Paul Gross. He's in for Brandon this afternoon to talk about our weather here, but also how it's impacting these really ferocious fires. And we know that that smoke can be seen for miles. Several states, in fact, have been reporting seeing some of that smoke. What are the odds that it would reach here?
Well, I'll tell you what, Everett, I mentioned yesterday morning on Local 4 News Today that the trajectory was such that it might get here. And now it is actually here. Take a look at the satellite imagery. You can actually see the smoke. Now, I couldn't see this when I got in at 2:15 this morning because those were infrared satellite images, but these are now visible images. And if you look very carefully at the top of the image, you see this dark area here? That is actual clear sky. But you see all of this, kind of that fuzzy stuff, that light gray, that is actually the smoke from those wildfires that has made it all the way across the country to our neck of the woods. So that's what's causing that kind of that fuzzy sun, that hazy sun out there. It's kind of like a smoky layer across the top of the sky. Temps right now are in the low to mid 60s. We're going to creep our way into the upper 60s to near 70 degrees. No rain or anything, just that smoky sunshine, as we'll call it, with a light breeze from the north. I'll be back to talk about what is going to be Hurricane Sally. That is going to be big trouble. We'll talk about the weather all the way through the upcoming weekend, straight ahead.
Alrighty, Paul, we'll see you in just a little bit. In other news this afternoon, the man charged in the death of a professional poker player is back in court today. 60-year-old Jeffrey Morris is his name. He's charged with the murder of 33-year-old Susie Zhao. And police are saying that the two met at the Sherwood Motel in Waterford, which is about 2 miles from Zhao's mother's home. Prosecutors say that she was bound with zip ties, sexually assaulted, and set on fire. Her body was found in the Pontiac Lake Recreation Area back in July. A preliminary exam is happening right now to determine if there's enough evidence to go to trial. And developing right now, police are investigating a deadly shooting in Highland Park. Neighbors on Gerald Street say that they heard gunshots overnight. And they called police this morning when they found this car shot up. And you can see the bullet holes and the shattered glass there in the driver's side window. We've learned that one person was found dead from a gunshot wound to the head. We're working to get more information about a suspect and a possible motive. The search continues now for the gunman who shot and injured 2 Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies in an apparent ambush. And this is surveillance video released by the department, and it shows one gunman opening fire while the deputies sat in their patrol car. A 24-year-old man and a 31-year-old woman are now in the hospital. They're in critical condition after emergency surgery. Both of them have been on the force for about 14 months.
2 deputies were doing their job, minding their own business, watching out for the safety of the people on the train and seen somebody just walk up and just start shooting on them. It pisses me off.
And understandably so. Authorities haven't said if this weekend's ambush is related to recent civil unrest. The department has now announced a $100,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest. Correction staff are now back in control of the Chippewa Correctional Facility. That's in the UP. And it's located about 330 miles north of Detroit and between Sault Ste. Marie and Mackinac City. There was a fight inside of the facility late last night, and officers tased one prisoner and he was taken to the hospital. But it was when that inmate was being taken away that other prisoners left their cells and forced the officers out. But again, all staff are safe and no prisoners escaped. Today, we do expect to learn more after 2 people were shot during a youth deer hunt in Clay Township. This happened just last night during a youth hunt near Benwar Road. Sources are telling us that one of the victims is a child, although we don't know the exact age. We're also being told that a deer was shot and a small group was out looking for the deer when that incident happened.
What we're being told is they were out looking for a deer that was shot earlier, and that's when the incident occurred.
It appears the second victim, likely an adult, was shot trying to unload a gun. We're told that this happened on private property. The Michigan DNR is also investigating. Still to come here on Local 4 News at noon, the race for the White House and the fight for Michigan is heating up again. We'll tell you where Donald Trump Jr. and Dr. Jill Biden will be campaigning next.